Hey, folks, I can't really call the meeting to order because you might have a quorum. However, which we weren't gonna vote on anything anyway. And what this allows us to do is just have a community meeting. Skip all the admin stuff. There are three things we're gonna talk about, we're gonna stick to the agenda. For the things that, just for the order of business. Supervisor Hopkins is gonna give her update, the one thing, then we're gonna talk about the Meals on Wheels program. And then we're gonna talk about, then we're gonna have a presentation by, Sonoma County Tourism. And then we're going to hear from, planning about the general plan update. I'd like to kind of run this like you sort of was a MAC with having a chance to have public comments about things not on the agenda. And then at each presentation, if somebody has a question or wants to make a comment, we're happy to do that. This is still gonna all be recorded. It's still gonna go out on Zoom. It's just not an official meeting. So everybody okay with that? All right. I expect there will be people coming in because if you have drive here like I did, you spend a lot of time up here on the highway waiting. And I suspect that there are some people out there now who wish they were in here. And they're not. We're not gonna wait any longer. So we're not doing any of that. You guys, we're gonna go to number 5 here, council member comment on matters not listed on the agenda. This is usually where one of the MAC members can say what they've been up to, or if there's anything in the future, or what's going on, something that's not on the agenda. So Wanda, would you introduce yourself?
Well, that was just.
I know you're good. There's gonna bring it down.
There we go. Oh, that's good, yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Wanda Swenson. I'm the alternate representative for Fort Ross area. Carolyn Madden and I are going to try to co-macking a little bit better than we have been. So here I am. And I just wanted to mention, this has come to my attention, that there's through the California Water Board, there is talk and plans of making water quality permitted on Wallala River watershed. Now that affects the Fort Ross area. It affects parts of Timber Cove and parts of Sea Ranch Annapolis. And so it's just in the early stages. And so I just kind of wanted to announce this. It's just being developed right now. There's been virtual meetings about it. There's actually one on Monday, the 21st. There's a Zoom meeting. And then there'll be reviews and comments about a draft permit. But by the fall of 2026, there's a proposed adoption hearing for the permit and supporting environmental analysis documents. Apparently there's going to be funding available, but there's talk of just water quality assessment. And the main concern is about dirt roads in rural areas and the sedimentation that's going into the river and how it's affecting the fish. It's all about the fish. So just wanted to make that, I have a few copies of this little flyer if anyone's interested. And that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Wanda. John, you have anything?
No, I don't right now. Thank you.
George? No, nothing there. Okay, thank you. Supervisor Hopkins. Over to you.
Good afternoon. Good to see everyone, even if virtually. So I'm going to give a quick few county updates, starting with acknowledging the potential impacts of the federal budget that was just approved. I want everyone to know that while we do not have precise financial impacts or even really the precise timing of those impacts, because some of those cuts to social services will actually occur after the midterm elections, which was very clearly a political priority for the folks who passed that bill. We are still analyzing. We are actually, our both health services department as well as human services department is currently in active conversations with the state of California to try to understand more about what the financial impacts will look like for county government from the 900-page bill and budget that was adopted. I also want to acknowledge a loss that occurred on the North Coast that was independent of the federal budget challenges, and that was the loss of the Meals on Wheels program, which unfortunately was the result of an RFP that the county had put out for funding available that we did not receive an application for. And so I just want everyone to know that I have flagged that for our DHS director, Nolan Sullivan, and we continue to advocate for those resources for our North Coast residents. I also wanted to touch base on the sewer rate increases and the capacity charges as it relates to the Sea Ranch. So we did approve rate increases, which unfortunately was pretty substantial in the Sea Ranch. I believe that was just shy of 9% increase. We continue to operate at a deficit for most of our small sanitation districts that are managed by Sonoma Water, and really are trying to make raise enough revenue to make the investments that we know are needed long-term to facilitate the operations of the plants into the future. And I also want to note that we do also have a rate relief program. So for low-income residents, we actually do have a qualification and an application program that does actually provide for rate relief for folks for whom that increase is just too much to bear on. Typically, we have a lot of folks on fixed incomes who are successfully applying and receiving relief from that program. However, I do want you to know that I was successful in stopping what would have been just, I don't know, out of control increase in terms of the capacity charges for the Sea Ranch. So the current capacity charges for the Sea Ranch, and this is what you would pay if you were to have a new connection into the system, is currently at $6,230. Sonoma Water staff came forward and proposed $60,000 connection fee, or potentially their lower option was a $20,000 connection fee. And I felt very strongly that this would have a very negative impact on the development of affordable housing and all of the unincorporated communities that are served by Sonoma Water, which in addition to the Sea Ranch also includes, Occidental, as well as the Russian River in West County, plus Airport, Larkfield, Wickiup, Geyserville, Pengrove, and Sonoma Valley and South Park. So there are quite a few communities that would have been impacted by hugely increased capacity charges. Also wanted to provide a bit of an update on the Bodega Firehouse situation, which I'm guessing lots of folks have been reading about in the news. I want to give huge kudos to Che and also Eric Koenigshofer for really being very solutions oriented. And I'm very excited to let everyone know, which you probably have also already heard, but that there is now a 1-year lease in place that will allow Gold Ridge Fire to operate in Bodega for a year, and that the transfer of the Bodega Volunteer Fire Association vehicles and assets are in process. Also want to say thank you so much to Sonoma County Tourism for their partnership and appreciate them being here. And also a huge thank you to Permit Sonoma and the folks with the general plan update for being here as well. And that will, I believe it's the EJ element that will be coming before the board soon for an update and a general check-in with the Board of Supervisors in August. And I can get that date if anyone's interested in tuning into that meeting. So with that, I'd hand it back to the chair or unofficial chair, and happy to answer any questions.
Great. Are there any questions? Okay, I would just say, I appreciate your first point about federal budget cuts and the future impact on, Meals on Wheels or any other social services programs. We just want to clarify that what we're talking about now are not future cuts, they're cuts that have already happened. And we anticipate it to get worse if, I guess that would involve them actually taking money away for it to get worse. But anyway, and just for the audience sake, yeah, we are concerned about future cuts to those kind of programs that have federal support. But what we're talking about tonight is not that.
Is this the time to ask a question about the funding for Meals on Wheels?
That's not now.
Okay, it's later.
Yeah.
Okay, comes up. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions, comments?
Wait, do I make a comment about this? I would like to.
No, we're gonna go to that next. Specific to what about? Thing. I see no hands, so you're safe now. You have to stay there. All right. Would anybody like to make a statement about stuff that is not on the agenda? 1, 2, 3. Nope. Okay, so we'll.
Excuse me, I don't, wanna ask him, I don't even know quite what's on the agenda, but I just would like a little bit of clarification about. Did I hear correctly that now it's gonna cost $20,000 to get a permit to build a house at Sea Ranch?
The question was, the lady in the audience, thought she heard you say that it was gonna cost $20,000 to get a permit to build a house at Sea Ranch. Is that what you said?
That is not what I said. So to clarify, that was what staff had proposed, was increasing the current $6,000 fee to hook up to the sewer treatment plant to either $20,000 or $60,000. And I am pleased to say that I led an initiative and got the support of my colleagues to not adopt that staff recommendation and to maintain it at $6,000, which is what it previously was. And so that's not really the permit to build the home. That's an additional fee to receive sewer service. And so it's called a capacity charge, but it's really a hookup fee. And so while the sewer rates for existing customers did increase, we voted to reject staff recommendation to increase that. And my concern was that would have a very negative impact if we were to increase it on the development of additional housing, which is so desperately needed in much of unincorporated Sonoma County.
You're good?
Thank you.
Thank you for the support on that. Okay, now, the issue that I think several people came for this evening, and that's about the threat to the Meals on Wheels program up here. The short version is Sonoma County Department of Health and Human Services, Aging and what was it called? Adult support aging. Okay, Aging and Adult Division, has canceled funding, not funded, social seniors for the Meals on Wheels program at all this fiscal year. And has not paid it for last fiscal year as well. There was some fumble with the RFP, so the process, that was corrected. The problem is that there has been zero attempt on this, on the county staff part, on Mr. Dunaway's part, who's head of this department, to re-engage and get this program started. These people are funded. This is a county government organization that has a budget of tax dollars to support these programs. This is not a private foundation that you submit a grant to, and if something goes wrong, you just throw darts. What happens, these people have money, they have a budget. There has been no attempt at actually pushback or resistance to fix this from staff's problem, despite efforts on behalf of Rebecca Stewart, Carolyn Andre, to get this started again. All they have met was resistance. Coastal Seniors, which runs this program, as well as several other programs, has had to use funds to keep this going. Has had to use funds that they have been collecting to rebuild their office that burned down here, moved to the community center. They want to move down there where it's more centrally located and actually benefits Sonoma County residents better. There's about 80 people on this program right now. More or less half now-ish. Mendocino County is doing their share and they're working at it. Their staff is reaching out, saying, hey, how can we make things better? And they're making sure they get the money. Sonoma County has done nothing. Nothing. They've known about, I got pretty cranked about this a couple of weeks ago, I apologize for that, but, they know this is a problem, they know this is being printed, or, met tonight, the press, may or not be here, I don't know. But we're making a big stink out of this, and we want the county to fix it. If it doesn't get fixed, this is gonna be on the agenda every meeting until it does. Cause it has to get fixed. There have been, thoughts of, well, those people out there on the coast are rich and they don't need that. This last I checked, there was no means test for this. There's no means test. And less than, a quarter of, probably about 15%. There, small number of people, Sea Ranch, small number of people in the Timber Cove development. Again, I guess that's perceived as another group of rich people. There's a whole bunch of people here that need this program. A lot of people here tonight know about that. So, I'm writing a letter to the director of this program. It was in the board packet. I'm gonna ask Jay to read it for the record, since this is all being filmed. So you get an idea of what our position is. If we had a quorum tonight, I'd say this is from the board itself, or from the council itself, but we don't have a quorum, so I'm just gonna say this is coming from the chair based on my observation, my community. So if you read that letter, then I'd like people, since this is being filmed, zoomed, and going on the record anyway, even though it's just a community meeting, I'd like to hear from the audience, those of you who want to say something about the Meals on Wheels program at the microphone up here. So, Jake, can you read this?
Yeah, I apologize. Give me one moment, please. If you can give a little more background while I run it down. Thank you. There we go. July 17th, 2025, Coast Municipal Advisory.
Speak in the microphone, please.
Scott, you don't want to read your own letter?
No, I'm gonna start crying.
And this one's not working, so one moment. July 17th, 2025, Coast Municipal Advisory Council to Paul Dunaway, Aging Services Director, Sonoma County Human Services, Department of Development Agent. Subject, SCHSE, withdrawal of funding from North Sonoma Coast Meals on Wheels program, CC Supervisor documents. By this letter, the Coast MAC urging the request that Sonoma County Human Services promptly reverse the cancellation of financial support to nutritional needs of scores of seniors on the North Coast, including the populations of Annapolis, Sea Ranch, Stewart's Point, Ocean Cove, Timber Cove, Fort Ross, the Walla Ranches, other small coastal and inland populations. Coastal Seniors, which manages the Wheels on Wheels program, has received zero funding for both last fiscal year and the current fiscal year. I would add from Sonoma County. Your decision to cancel funding for this critical need is now Meals on Wheels, the edge of collapse, putting the welfare of our seniors at risk. The beneficiaries of this program, taxpayers all, are often unable to fend for themselves, preparing food, much less travel to a grocery store or food. Most of the North Coast Meals on Wheels clients are quite aged, remotely housed, and unable to drive themselves. They do not have the means to relocate to town where support programs are numerous. Virtually none, regardless of their perceived financial and social standing, have the means to hire a home care staff to shop and prepare meals. As Coastal Seniors is the only provider of Meals on Wheels on the North Coast, they receive much needed funding from the County of Sonoma, but to provide service on this side of the county line, they are in desperate need of support from the County of Sonoma. To maintain Meals on Wheels, Coastal Seniors is taking from their fund to replace their Walla facility destroyed by arson. This is unsustainable. And now Coastal Seniors is in dire financial straits. They have already had to short meal deliveries to many. These beneficiaries and the future beneficiaries of the Coastal Senior Meals on Wheels program are human beings and should be granted the same support and dignity as those in your population centers. We call on the Sonoma County Human Services Adult Aging Division to fulfill this mission and should treat them equally. Please restore funding.
Thank you. Okay, who would like to start here? Here we go. You say who you are and maybe where you're from.
Yeah, I'm Marty Campbell. I live at the Sea Ranch and I'm a former MAC member and MAC chair. Hello, everybody. I was appalled to learn of this shortfall from your letter in the packet, Scott. And Meals on Wheels also serves people who live in rural areas along the coast who are not associated with the town. And a lot of these people are homebound. I know a number of people at the Sea Ranch and have known over the years who volunteer and drive to deliver these meals for people. This is a critical program, and it's gonna become more critical as we see the cutbacks that are at the federal level. And I think it's appalling, and I'm really disturbed to hear that the county staff has pushed back at the coastal seniors people who have tried to get this funding restored. And I'm certainly gonna write a letter to this person and copy Supervisor Hawkins. We on the North Coast, we're tucked, especially in the Sea Ranch area, we're tucked away here at the border of the county, the borderline with Mendocino County, and we get forgotten. And by county services, we pay a lot of taxes. We pay a lot of TOT money to the county. And this program supports the less fortunate people who are older and poor and incapable of providing food security for themselves. And I think it's critical that the funding be restored. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Paul Plegos, the Sea Ranch. Scott, I have a question. Is this a county issue? Is this because coastal seniors is associated or in Wallala? That they are not providing Sonoma County funds?
Yeah.
It is not,
No,
okay,
no, and actually, they have been funding this program,
right.
for a few years. before
Yes.
this.
Well, I was just wondering if all of a sudden somebody said, well, we're not funding that with Sonoma County funds anymore.
Well, somebody may have said, if they did.
Because it should be funded with Mendocino County, which I totally disagree with.
But this is Sonoma County that we're delivering to. We also are paid for Mendocino County
You are,
by Mendocino County.
oh, excellent, okay. Well, maybe that would be a good part of the letter also, is to include that Mendocino County does pay.
Oh, they, yeah.
And Sonoma County is not, so that there's a difference between county. And then my other thought in reading your letter is it may help to actually put some numbers to it. I know you said scores of people, but when I was reading it, I was thinking if it's 80 or 100, maybe
It should.
becomes a little more
it should-
personal.
It does, but it shouldn't matter. I mean, if we get into a hair splitting contest, or it's, it's 80 isn't enough, or your cost per meal is too high, that hasn't been the issue at all. There has been no attempt from staff to reconcile whatever that difference is.
Okay,
No response.
okay, well, thank you for answering.
Thank you, thank you for asking the question. Supervisor Hopkins says that.
Yeah, thank you. If I might just provide a little bit of context. So what happened is that the county, through the Human Services Department and the Division on Adults and Aging, issues an RFP or a NOFA. So an RFP being a request for proposals and NOFA being notice of funding available. And then they solicit applications for that funding cycle. And what happened was there was no application from coastal seniors for that funding. But here's where, in my opinion, the county staff absolutely dropped the ball. When there was no application that came in, they should have absolutely reached out to coastal seniors, because their interest should be not just kind of like letting people throw darts at a board and taking whatever comes, into that RFP or NOFA process, but actually trying to look at geographic equity and ensuring that the county is covered. And so they didn't give a call or send an email or say, hey, we always get an application from you, and this time it didn't come in. And so that is really where the failure was. I also wanted to mention that I'm reaching out to, so that's through Human Services, but I'm also checking in with Nolan Sullivan, who's our Department of Health Services, because they actually have some new funding coming out in the next couple of months through Measure O, which is the sales tax that we all pay into. And so I would encourage that if you are going to send a letter, it would be great to not only CC me, also make sure you CC the department head, Angela Struckman, the head of Human Services, and then also Nolan Sullivan, who is the director of health services. Because I think that, I mean, I'm definitely going to fight for this. I'm going to, put some calls into those department heads, but I think it would really mean a lot for it to come from the community as a formal request to those 3 different entities.
And Linda, Coastal Seniors has also been given the TIF application as a stopgap.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Carolyn, you want to address any of that? Tell us who you are.
I first an apology. I hate to put my back in for you. I'm Carolyn Andre. I'm the board chair of Coastal Seniors. But I'd like to start talking as a very proud Meals on Wheels driver. Because I think it might add something to people's thinking. I'm probably the oldest Meals on Wheels driver, in which I take no pride. But I've been doing it for 18 years. Mike Staples, who's not here tonight and couldn't be, has been doing it for 20. And we have people from all over who volunteer to do this. And they're not paid to do it. I have had multiple routes from the south end all the way up to and through Irish Beach, just short of Elk. And those routes come up at various times. And when I first started with Meals on Wheels, I had a route on the Ridge, which I was a terrible failure at, because the Ridge has new addresses and old addresses. And both even and uneven on both sides, and I was no good at it. And I got someone left who was doing the northern route. The northern route included parts of Point Arena, mostly in town, all the way up through Irish Beach. And it included the 2 reservations up north. And it was an unbelievable eye-opener. And here's why, and this is something that I think people in Santa Rosa for sure don't get about our area and what it is they're doing when they stop funding Meals on Wheels here. First of all, our people who deliver drive further than probably any other Meals on Wheels in the state, and certainly in the county. But beyond that, I heard all these stories about the reservations and how poor people were and how much help they needed. And that was not untrue. But what was also true, that was just amazing to me because I knew nothing, was that it's very family oriented. All the people who live on those reservations, and actually across the 2, not just within their one they live in, they know everybody. Half or more are related. And those that aren't related have known the other families for generations. Kids often live at home. And even married kids sometimes live at home, continue to live at home. And other times they're living in a house nearby. And when people get older, not only are families helping with families and helping with food and driving to places and getting doctor appointments and whatever's needed, but so are neighbors and so are friends. And people stop by and talk to people and visit with them. One of the biggest problems for people on Meals is not just that they may not have enough food. They have no company. And I recently got the not recently, actually, it was during COVID. I think it might have been 2019, 2020. I got the Sea Ranch route for the first time. I live at the Sea Ranch. It's the worst route I've ever had in my life. And why? Because first of all, I don't know if you guys know, but people at the Sea Ranch who live here, over 80%, about 82 right now, are seniors. That's a very big number. It's usually the biggest in California, the most aged population. Timber Cove also actually sort of connected to Jenner in the area agency on aging numbers, and it's like 42% seniors. That's also high. Not as high as the Sea Ranch, but it's still high relative to lots of others. And so seniors are home, good, we give them one meal a day. That's all Meals on Wheels does. We don't feed people all day long, so it's not enough. So somebody has to go get more food, presumably, unless they're really light eaters. And there aren't always people around to do that. We help on some of that. And we have people who will go out grocery shopping for them. But I also, for about 10 years, headed our a program we had, a suicide prevention program. And a lot of the people who came to it were older people. And some of them reasonably actually wanted to die. The main reason? They were totally isolated. They knew nobody, they were lonely as hell, their friends had died, they had no family. And the other thing that's true at the Sea Ranch, but it's true in some other areas as well, is a lot of these people have outlived their money. I have 3 people on my route at the very rich Sea Ranch who live on the floor. It's because they can't afford the heat or the electricity if they go into a bedroom. That's ridiculous. And I want to say one thing directly to the Area Agency on Aging. I've been the board chair since 2013, I think. I have heard 3 people from that agency refer to the Sea Ranch and Timber Cove as the vacay villages. I didn't even get what it meant at first, but obviously it's vacation villages, but that's not what they're talking about. They said we're too rich, we don't need the money. Scott, you're right. Meals on Wheels, the absolute first thing you learn is there's absolutely nothing to do with money about it. It has to do with whether you can stand for an hour or 2 and cook your meals. or whether you can get enough help to do that for you, whether you can walk, whether you can get out if there's a fire. It has to do with basic living issues. And if you have money, you pay for it. If you can donate some money to us, we're grateful. And if you can't afford it, you don't pay for it. And that's the number 2 rule about Meals on Wheels. So saying that people are rich, when first of all, everyone here is not rich, and trust me, the people I see every week have virtually nothing, is a horrible thing to say. And it is also why, for years, they never even thought of funding where you live. The only reason that happened and we started delivering to you, because you weren't in our area at all. We weren't gonna go to Timber Cove and Fort Ross and the ranches. That's a long drive, and when we send people there from Point Arena, they go to deliver stuff, that's a 90-mile drive. And we also do give people mileage, so you know, they get some reimbursement for what they do. But the reason we got it was we went to AAA. Because Margaret was one of the people who told me you couldn't get funded. Nothing was going on there. And would we consider delivering to you? And so we took it on. We had only gone as far as Annapolis and Stewart's Point, you know, in terms of how far south we went, so we took it on. But, and there are other areas they don't fund either, as you guys are probably aware. Anyway, I think that sort of talk about we don't need to finance the vacation villages is way out of line. And anyone from the area agency on aging or any of the other departments that are involved in this who would like to come with me on a route and see who we're dealing with and better understand our area and what it is, I'd be thrilled to take them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
My name is Christine Crayling. I live at 330 Madrone Meadow in the Sea Range. I don't get Meals on Wheels. I'm certainly old enough to get Meals on Wheels, but my husband is still cooking for me, so I'm still hanging in there. Otherwise, it would be peanut butter and jelly. But anyway, but I think I've got some direct experience in connection with a neighbor that will offer a useful illustration about Meals on Wheels as a program. It's not just somebody putting an aluminum tray covered with foil on somebody's kitchen countertop. And I know that because of a neighbor that we have in the Madrone Meadow clusters, which are close together, so we know our neighbors pretty well because we run into each other when we're putting out our garbage and our recycling and stuff. So we're closer together than most. Let's say her name is Rose, a difficult personality. So in some ways, she's sort of self-isolated, living alone, and didn't suffer fools gladly, or even some people who weren't so foolish. She stopped speaking to my husband and me when we wouldn't go into her house before we got COVID vaccines, and she refused to be vaccinated. So a difficult person with a son living abroad who she had pissed off already, and so socially difficult. But we realized at a certain point that she had done what Carolyn just referred to as outspent her money. She had people coming in and helping her, and so she had no money to do that. And we got concerned about the fact that if she didn't have money to have people to help her, she didn't maybe have money to buy food. And so we took food over after we got vaccinated, and she loved yams. My husband was always buying yams for her. Totally vegetarian type of personality, and so vegetables and everything. But we realized at a certain point, she was slipping further in the sense that she was increasingly lonely and increasingly hungry. And so I know somebody at Coastal Seniors, and so I called them up. The very next day, they sent a representative. They signed her up for Meals on Wheels. They set up interviews for her with MHA and with RCMS. They put in daily calls to her because she was just so lonesome, and she would talk for like 40 minutes at a time to these people. After she had a medical incident and had to be rushed to the hospital, the Meals on Wheels people made sure that when she emerged from that, she got into a nursing home facility since she could not afford to pay for her own individual care. Her Meals on Wheels representative went into her house at the Sea Ranch and personally took some of the tapestries on the walls that she had that she was so fond of, went into her closet and got some of her favorite clothing and took it to her in the nursing home and kept calling on her day after day. She's now in assisted living. She's still talking to the Meals on Wheels representative. And they basically created social links for her that she had all but destroyed on her own, and they repaired those. And I think that's really important to understand the grasp that Meals on Wheels has. It's improperly named because the name is more limited than what they actually do. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Julie Bauer. I live in Walla and I own property in Sonoma County. To give some background and context to my comments, I did Meals on Wheels deliveries for years. When my now 10-year-old was a baby, and I put him in the bucket car seat and I load up my minivan. And I took my now 15-year-old, he was like 6 at the time, and we would deliver meals all up and down the coast. I never went past Stewart's Point, but I remember, I served on boards and I'm good friends with Carolyn. I remember the discussion about Coastal Seniors taking on, residents further south. And I have a good friend named Amanda who did that, route for a long time. She lives in Point Arena, and she was taking time out of her busy single mom life to deliver food because she built relationships with the clients down there and really looked forward to spending time with them when she delivered. Who I am, I have served on the Coast Life Support District for the last 14 years or so. As soon as I moved here, I joined up with that. I'm a new firefighter in Walla. I provide elder care for family members, past family members who are no longer with us, my father-in-law and some neighbors. So I see every day, how important social connection and nutrition are for people of all ages, especially for our seniors. So Meals on Wheels deliveries brought me a lot of joy and to my family, and I looked forward to it. The way it was set up for me, because I was a busy working mom, was, there are 4 weeks in a month, so there were 4 women, and we shared a route. So each of us took 1 week, so it wasn't as big of a commitment to any of us. And then I provided fill-in for people who had to go on vacation or were out sick. And so I ended up delivering meals to reservations downtown Walla, downtown Arena. And I think one thing that's important to consider, you're looking at this from outside our community, and our community is all the way down almost to Jenner, all the way up through Irish Beach and inland. We're all neighbors, we're all community members, we're all accountable to each other. But when you don't live here, you don't realize that every little driveway that you pass, if you drive down it to deliver meals, as I've done, as many of us have done, there are 15 houses or trailers down there. You don't realize how much population is actually here. A lot of it is probably, sort of unofficial, doesn't show up on census data, but there's a lot of people here who need services. Meals on Wheels provides more than food. A lot of these clients are physically isolated. They are isolated in terms of transportation. They no longer can drive, can't afford to have a car. Their driveways are so rutted that they can't navigate it themselves safely. They're isolated from connectivity. They don't have internet connections. If you live in a heavily redwood forested area and you aren't served by one of our microwave line of sight internet services and you can't get enough clearance for satellite, you don't have any connectivity. AT&T is not maintaining our phone lines. So you can imagine these folks are often physically and from a communication standpoint, very disconnected and isolated. So when people like me go do these deliveries, I brought my kids partly because I thought it was good for them, partly because what else am I gonna do with them at the time? And also, it really brought a lot of joy to those senior clients all up and down the coast. They love having a baby in the house. They love it when my 6-year-old is delivering the food. So it was great. It was really great for all of us. It also sort of provided built-in welfare checks. I was seeing these folks sometimes weekly, depending on my route, or at least once a month, and you go back and it builds community for me to go talk to the senior center staff and other volunteers and say, hey, I noticed so-and-so seemed a little down, maybe we could check on her, or she had a wound that probably needs to be dealt with, someone should try to get some medical care for her. So that was really valuable. And the nutrition is really, really vital. Some of these folks have nothing in their cupboards. We would ask them when we come in, hello, Mr. Jones, do you want me to put your food here on the table for you to eat now? Or should I put it in the refrigerator? And sometimes they're desperate, they want to eat it right then. Sometimes they ask you to put it in the fridge and it's the only thing in the refrigerator. And Meals on Wheels are not delivered every day, at least they weren't for the years that I did it. It was 4 days a week, and then we provided some frozen foods and some grocery type things to tide them over, so they at least hopefully have something for every day. So I think it's vital. It doesn't matter if the RFP was missed or whatever, the funding needs to be there always. I don't think it's something that should be applied for. These North Coast senior clients who now have no funding for Meals on Wheels were dutiful members of their communities. They pay their sales tax, their property tax, their income tax for years. If this is the tax funding source of income for this service, I don't think that it should have to be applied for. I think it should be a regular, consistent offering to these community members. We should not be abandoning them. And just a quick little list of the people that delivered meals with me. My friend Vivian did it for years. She was the Meals on Wheels coordinator until she moved out of the community. My friend Carolyn Andre, my friend Micheline, and my friend Amanda, who was the one that drove all the way from Point Reyna down to Timberville to drop off food. Thank you.
I have a question.
I'm just curious if anybody, Carolyn, thank you, for being here, again. We talked about this, because I think the last time we were up in, we were in Timber Cove. But the question that I've got is, does anybody know offhand what the funding was that was provided by the Department of Adult and Aging in the last year that the budget was approved and allocated?
38,974.
Hi, everyone. It's hard to have your back towards Steve too. When I first started,
Tell us who you are.
I'm Rebecca Stewart, the executive director of Post City. Sorry, I have asthma, kind of struggling this week, so I'm having a hard time kind of talking. But, so when I first started, we were getting $18,000 a year, about $1,644 a month to feed an average of 40 clients. So, and then when within about 6 months, I got it to add $10,000. Because we're,
That's to know.
Sonoma. And then when I redid the next following year, I got it up to almost $36,000. That's just for Meals on Wheels. So,
Can you compare that to Mendocino?
yeah, that's on there, yes. So Mendocino, it started like in 2001 when it was 18,000 to $61,000. The next year was 73, then 74,000. And then this year, because of the budget cuts, it went down to 58. But they're adding some more money on there. Mendocino's doing a great job trying to find more money to add on. So you're getting supplemented one-time funds.
So just to be clear, so the last, I'm taking away from your, use very useful information is the last time the county funded this program was about 2 years ago. It was about $36,000.
Yeah, $35,384.
That helps.
Right, and I fought for every penny.
Yeah, well, I joined Scott in saying that I think that, as a MAC member, this is an extremely high priority and that the county needs to find a way to, by hook or by crook, come up with at least $40,000 in funding to, address the shortfall over the last 2 years.
Right on. And then they make us, we follow the scope of the grant, we're still following the scope, even though we don't have a grant. We follow with the nutritional, educational,
This is really inexcusable. I mean, it really is inexcusable. The comment that somebody said they'd like to get, perhaps, Paul Dunaway should come up and do a group with, some of you. I think, I would like, I think maybe we invite him to come do that facility. It really is.
Yeah. But thanks for your, help and interest in this and helping us, because it is, and it isn't about the money, because in there, the number one thing, like Carolyn said, is we're not allowed to ask for money. You can't ask people to pay. We suggest in a letter every month, but it's not mandatory. I mean, and there's sticklers on that. We have, when they come in and give donations, we don't keep names, everything's under law, it's all confidential. So.
Rebecca, could you, let everyone know that the last application you made to Sonoma County, what that amount was?
Well, I asked for about 53,000, a minimum of 30,000, and I did the RFP along with an agent that actually had just started working there, so she wasn't really familiar, with the process. So that's what I applied for, and they accepted the RFP. And then after a monitoring session, or an inspection, they decided not to give us the money.
Was there any explanation?
Yeah, they do monitoring and they say some things that they don't like. But there was no chance for rebuttal to, nothing. It just as that was it. And I did meet with Paul Dunaway. I asked to meet with him. No one ever reached out. I reached out to them. And he said I could reapply in 2027. That was his answer. I mean, by the end of the whole meeting, I was in tears. It was very, it was different. It's not like Mendocino.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, one more question. Could you contrast that with Mendocino County? And I understand that they recently audited or did a monitoring inspection and everything like that. And what were the results of that?
It was a perfect score. And they never had a perfect score. And we have the head of Mendocino area aging come and monitor between her and Virginia. We have different people that come, so it's not always the same person. They're very helpful. And it's just a different culture, different. The staffing, they are there to help. And and we also had, I think, week before they came, or within 2 weeks, we had the county inspector come. But we're inspected 4 times a year from Mendocino, but they do show up more. They show up to give us, pamphlets and vouchers for, food banks and farmers markets and things like that. So they work hard and they travel all the way from Lake County to come to see us in Point Arena.
Point of information, Chair,
Yes,
in response to John Laughlin's comments. Paul Dunaway was introduced to Rebecca and Scott via email to connect before this meeting and was invited to this meeting as well.
and has anybody heard anything? I have not. Okay,
Anyway,
thank you so much. Okay. So. We got another one, okay. All right, go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Linda. As of last year, we generated $19 million worth of taxes from Sea Ranch. My name's Paula Smith. We want our cut. And this is ridiculous. They were asking for a fifth compared to the $19 million we generate. And we take care of a lot of our stuff ourselves. We take care of our roads. We have a water department. We put up a cell tower. We put up Sea Ranch Connect. All the county has to do is take care of Annapolis Road. Is that correct? No? Yeah. So this is ridiculous. And I'm not totally clear. Is the money currently available? Maybe Supervisor Hopkins can tell us that? Or are they waiting on funding? Is it accessible now? This is unclear to me. We don't know.
You know that, Rebecca? You guys don't know?
They keep going back and forth. Well, they don't really, it's hard to get a hold of anyone there.
Okay.
And I think the problem with them too is I've had 4 analysts in 3.5 years. And one of them I had for 1.5 years. Some of them I've never met. And that's the person I'm supposed to be connected with. So they, I'm the one that always reaches out. I wanna meet them. I wanna have the Zoom. I wanna know who they are. They never reach out to me. I think, what were you gonna say, Shay?
Well, I was just gonna say that I'm sure there's a fund or a way that they can pull 40K out, but
Yeah.
that
Okay.
is.
When we get the information on who to write to, can we include that in the info alert? Minka said that our community manager wants that. She just said, yes, I want that. I want their names. Thank you.
Linda, you're muted. Did you want to add to that? Raise your hand.
There's a, what,
One moment, please.
Okay.
I think you covered it, Che. So the funding source that did not receive an application is closed, but in my opinion, there's no excuse. The County of Mendocino has stepped up. They should be able to find $40,000. So we will continue to keep up the pressure and keep asking the questions and really appreciate the community support. I'm actually going to request that Paul Dunaway actually watches this meeting so that he can hear the firsthand testimony of the community. I think it's really important that they understand the impacts.
thank you, that's very important. Oh, was there one other, somebody, okay, and then.
Hello, my name is Janet Pierucci, and I'm a Sea Ranch resident. I'm also a clinical psychologist, and I've worked extensively with adults, particularly older adults. And as you may know, depression is a major problem for older adults, even if they have all the support they need. We are social animals. If you've ever watched toddlers, they gravitate toward each other. As we grow up, junior high, you know what junior high folks do. They get into cliques. As we move forward into adult life, again, we look to neighbors, we look to create social networks that support us. As we get older, those social networks tend to diminish because our friends die or move away. if we are in a primary relationship with another person, as long as that person is around, we have some good support, hopefully. At Sea Ranch, we are very fortunate that for those of us who live for full time, we do a lot to look out for each other, to take care of each other. If somebody on my block is down sick, man, I go to work on the chicken soup and deliver it, right? So we do a lot for our residents. However, there are residents on my block or in my unit who have no one. One particular person I can remember was a very elderly gentleman whose wife died suddenly. He was experiencing dementia, and she was his primary caregiver. He sometimes put dog food right on his plate rather than the dogs. My point being that he could not really take care of himself. Through the help of some wonderful people, he got connected with Meals on Wheels. And it was unfortunately about the only contact he had during the day with another human being. He became very depressed prior to the Meals on Wheels. And yet when the volunteers began to come to talk with him, to visit with him, he began to perk up a little bit. Yes, he still suffered from dementia, but at least he was able to make a little bit of contact. And I cannot stress enough, as a person who has studied mental health my whole life, that human contact, food is really important, but so is human contact. And I really hope, Supervisor Hopkins, that you will be able to assure us that we have funding here in Sea Ranch for those people who need food and human contact. Thank you.
Sure.
I'll be quick, so many beautiful, pieces of information have been shared, but my name is Megan Sunby, I'm the community manager of the Sea Ranch Association. And I felt compelled to speak because of some of the characterizations that we've heard about the Sea Ranch today as being a wealthy place, or being a vacay place. That's not only inaccurate, it's cruel at a human level. If you look at the numbers of the Sea Ranch, we have approximately 600 families who live here full time. They're by and large elderly. We have many on fixed income. We have the largest concentration of deed restricted affordable housing in the coastal zone in Sonoma County. So to simply, wash us over because of perceptions about us, I just want to make sure that the accurate facts about who the community is from a demographic perspective are somehow included in this discussion. So thank you.
They just work today. That's nice things. Okay, folks, we're gonna call that good. I'm gonna tweak this letter and send it out on my own, since we can't have a forum here and vote on it. I'm just gonna do it. And then, like I told Che, this is gonna stay on our agenda until it gets fixed. So, I hope in the next 2 months, we can fix this thing and report back that it's fixed. This is something the MAC can actually do. We don't have any opportunity to fix things on here, but this is something we can do. And I really appreciate your support in being here tonight and going on the record with your stories. So now we're gonna take about a 2-minute break in place, so people can take a deep breath, and then we're gonna go on to the next things on the agenda. Except.
Okay, but I want to thank you all for your time and attention. I really appreciate it. And your actions.
Yes.
All of you who spoke up.
Yes.
Most of you whom I didn't know were even coming. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry?
Yeah.
There's my computer. It's been so long since I've been here. That's the contract, the director. Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, everybody, we're gonna reconvene here, Sonoma County Tourism. Update, Kelly Backcycle, trying to staff, person who's come out to talk to us about this. We give her the full attention.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, we're gonna, this is interesting in that I'm not controlling my own slides and I can't see my own slides, if that's okay. I also gonna, following the conversation you just had, is about talking about tourism seems very trite and strange. My own love of Sea Ranch started, over 45 years ago, when my parents came here for the first time on vacation and fell in love and decided they were gonna buy property here and found a piece of property and got back to Southern California and found they were pregnant with me. Decided that was not a good financial decision for themselves, which they kick themselves for now. But we vacationed here as a kid every single year for 3 to 4 weeks every summer. And just this place to me is magic. So, sorry, if you listening to your community issues, it seems very strange to be talking about tourism. I want to thank Margaret Graham. Margaret is on our board at Sonoma County Tourism and has done a really excellent job of continuing to remind me how special your community is and how important the relationships we have with each other are to being able to survive here. And so just very appreciative of getting to hear community conversation today. With that, we will talk about tourism because it is an important piece of your identity. I don't love it being called vacation village either. But the reality is that a lot of the people that do find Sea Ranch as residents start because they come here to visit this super special place. So Sonoma County Tourism, and go to the next slide, Shay. Sonoma County Tourism is a nonprofit organization, or 501c6. We're the destination stewardship organization for Sonoma County. So what that means is a lot of organizations like ours are called destination marketing organizations, and their sole purpose is to market destination for tourists to come. In 2018, our board made a decision to become a destination stewardship organization because there was a recognition that not only do we want people to come and visit Sonoma County, it's a really important part of our economic ecosystem here, but also we are part of this community and our commitment is not just to invite people here, but to also work with the community residents, stakeholders, nonprofits, and trying to be part of the solution, not just for the impacts of, the impacts of tourist trade, but also as just good community stewards and wanting to ensure that this place is here for the next generation. Next slide. I do want to touch on how we're funded. So we are the recipient of public dollars funded through two main funding streams. The first is through a business improvement area. And that business improvement area is a 2% assessment on lodging that is greater than $350,000 per year. In overnight stays throughout the county of Sonoma in every municipality except for the cities of Sonoma and Hillsburg. That was a decision that was made when we were founded in 2004. And so those cities at the time opted out, but at the time their overnight lodging establishment said, you know what, we are stronger when we market Sonoma County together as a brand than if we market our own individual municipalities. So that business improvement area was founded. The second piece of our funding is through transient occupancy tax or TOT. So in the unincorporated area of Sonoma County, TOT is 12%. The last 4% is through Measure L funding, which is goes specifically to emergency services. The first 9% is general fund dollars that goes to the county. We receive 1.25% of that 9%, which is a reinvestment by the Board of Supervisors. And the understanding that when we market for people to come here, they come here, they stay overnight, they pay TOT. So we want people to continue to come here because it does help generate general fund dollars through transient occupancy tax, as well as it creates sales tax revenue, it creates jobs. And there's, it helps the industry to continue to move forward. The other piece is that our BIA is very, very strict in terms of how it's spent. It has to be spent on marketing dollars. So
with the TOT dollars, that really does allow us, and it has to be on marketing dollars specifically for overnight stays. The TOT dollars allows us to talk about all of the other things that make Sonoma County wonderful, which is not just our hotels and resorts. And it also helps us do the stewardship and sustainability work that, we hold so near and dear to our hearts. So just really quick, I do want to talk a little bit about the industry as a whole, and go to the next slide. As a whole, the economic impact, and we just, so for context, we get our economic impact numbers in May for the previous year. They're looking at 2024 numbers behind me. So it's, in terms of the economic impact, destination spending within Sonoma County in 2024 was $2.4 billion. It's also over 22,000 jobs in Sonoma County. And the government tax revenue that's generated from tourists is $218 million a year. So that's taxes, transient occupancy tax, sales tax, and other various things that are spent, other tax. This slide's a little bit hard to read, once again, doing this funny back and forth, but just wanted to paint a picture from an economic impact. And again, it's hard to read, but if you're looking for the numbers, I'm also happy to email you this or provide this slide deck. But essentially, we are just in the last 2 years finally getting to passing pre-COVID numbers. I started at Sonoma County Tourism in December of 2019. It's a weird time to start in tourism. So it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride. And it definitely has had its ebbs and flows. And we'll talk a little bit about the challenges that we're facing today and how those differ from some of the challenges that we faced in past years. But we have finally seen the employment numbers eat past where they were in pre-COVID, and the tax revenues are back at that point as well. You'll also notice, just the numbers, 2022 was a really excellent year, and we that was because of communities like this. Vacation rentals did incredibly well in 2022 as people were getting back to traveling, but maybe weren't super comfortable staying in a hotel, but they knew that if it's a vacation rental, they had their own shelter. So for destinations like Sonoma County, that is very heavy on the vacation rental side, we recovered more quickly than other counties in California. However, at this point, if you talk to anybody who runs vacation rentals, or hotels, this, that was a peak and we have come down since then. Go to the next slide. This is just, people always interested in ask, like, Kelly, where in the county is the most impact, it has the most impact towards, it may come as no surprise, the unincorporated area of the county. I am oftentimes asked, what parts of the county in the unincorporated area receive more TOT or have more visitors. We at Sonoma County Tourism don't receive that data by district or by zip code, but we do know, District 5 in West County is where the majority of transient occupancy tax in Sonoma County does come from. So I can stop and ask questions about any of that before I keep going. Okay.
Nice location.
Took another picture of it. Okay, so I mentioned I started at Sonoma County Tourism in 2019. We have typically done the strategic plan in 2-year increments. And every year we do the first year of the plan, and we have incredible intentions for what second year will look like. And every time we're thrown for a leap of some sort and have to rejigger and rethink things. So we've had a lot of change in the last couple of years. And so rather than doing a 2-year plan, our board this year adopted strategic priorities for just this fiscal year, which is July 1st of 2025 through next June. And so, next slide. I just want to acknowledge first where we're at. So we all know the world is a money place right now. We're facing a lot of economic uncertainty. The Canadian travel market has completely disappeared. It's dropped at least 20% across the country, but that was only through the most recent numbers that we have, which is not up to date, and we continue to see the Canadian market decline. The Canadian market was the number 2 market, the international travelers to the US after Mexico. We also know that we are, direct competition with Napa in terms of wine travelers, but Napa, when you look at the landscape of overnight accommodations. Napa is a luxury market. Sonoma County has always prided itself on being more affordable and much more accessible. What we are also seeing is that for travelers that are maybe concerned about job loss or economic uncertainty, those that maybe fall into the middle class traveler, those are the ones right now that are holding on and saying, you know what, I'm not gonna book a trip right now because I'm not really sure what's gonna happen to my savings. I don't know if I'm gonna have a job in 6 months. I don't know if we're gonna need to hold on to the level inflation is gonna go. So we know that Napa has not seen quite the dip that we have, but at the same time, both destinations where our number one products in terms of tourism has been wine. We also seen a decrease in alcohol consumption. We have seen an increase in consumptions for those that do still drink in other types of cocktails, so like the canned cocktail movement has become very popular, particularly with younger drinkers. So the winery industry has faced a number of different headwinds. And I also think, you know, coming out of COVID, Sonoma County had a reputation as a wine destination for one where you could go into a tasting room with no appointment. It was usually a lower price point for tasting. That landscape changed coming out of COVID. So we're doing a lot of messaging now where people come with assumptions that they have to have an appointment, they can't just walk right in. Wineries are still very welcome to walk-ins in Sonoma County, so we're doing a lot of messaging around that as well, just to help overcome those assumptions. Sorry, just one other thing, in addition, I should talk about demand drivers for just 1 second. So, there are a lot of, when we look at our competitive set, when our competitive set for Sonoma County, because the majority of travelers to Sonoma County are coming from California, and majority are actually coming from our drive market, so the Bay Area and Sacramento. Although we do have a lot of travelers from Southern California, particularly where the direct flights are to the Bay Area Airport. That said, when you look at our concept, Monterey, San Luis Obispo, Palm Springs, Tahoe, Napa, that's who we look at every single week in terms of how they're doing. Monterey, they're a big demand driver. They've got things like the aquarium that is pumping marketing money back into the market. We don't have a Monterey Bay Aquarium here that's also doing marketing for our destination. They also have some of the larger events like the Pebble Beach Golf Tournament. Napa has Bottle Rock. So Palm Springs has a number of music festivals, so we don't have the same types of demand drivers in Sonoma County that some of our comps that do, and so we're definitely looking at how that has affected the travelers to Sonoma County. So those are kind of the big things that we're looking at as challenges right now. So we look at our strategic plan, and that's timing, so my apologies, but number one is to drive the economy. When we look at our functions of the Sonoma County tourism staff, we have a marketing team. They are really reaching out to the leisure traveler, the consumer traveler. We also have a destination sales team. Those are working on bringing groups to Sonoma County and also working with the travel trades, the travel agents, online travel booking platforms, and tour operators. They really operate when they're looking at a strategy for this year that falls into that drive the economy space. Additionally, we're looking at what are other things that we can do to drive demand to Sonoma County. I want to say though, we talked about demand drivers, we're talking about this a little bit earlier. We're also really cognizant of who we are as a community, and that when we're looking at what things can we do to bring people to Sonoma County, we're not going to be talking about running a bike race or a marathon to Sea Ranch. That doesn't make any sense for your community. We want to look at things that make sense for the county as a whole and geographically. We're really realizing we're here, a county the size of the state of Rhode Island, and what makes sense maybe in Petaluma or Santa Rosa is not necessarily going to make sense here. So there's a balance in the mix that we're talking about when we look at demand drivers. You know, that makes people nervous. Talking about creating a resilient organization and destination. You know, this really, we have been through crisis several times, and we have a really robust crisis plan. We also are really fortunate that we have a seat in the Emergency Operations Center with the county during the crisis. Because we know that we are getting information out to hotel operators who are looking at visitors and guests and maybe aren't as familiar with our environment as a resident would be. So when we talk about a resilient destination, we're talking about one that is prepared for crisis. We're talking about one that is, you know, really looking at responsible travel messaging and ensuring that we are being good stewards of our land and our outdoor spaces. And then also us as an organization, some of our internal goals sit there as well. And then the last piece, and the piece that I really get to live in every day is engage the community. One of the things that we hear very often about people who visit Sonoma County is that people who live here love Sonoma County. And not only do they love Sonoma County, they love their piece of Sonoma County. I mean, you heard that tonight, right? So, you know, I'm really fortunate in that I get to work in this space. I get to meet people all over the community, hear about issues in the community, and what I'm asking tonight, and really the reason I'm here is I want to get to know this part of the county, and, you know, are there areas that we're missing? Are there things that we need to be aware of? Are there places where we can work better together with you all? So that's that engage the community piece. I would be remiss in not mentioning this, and I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on it, but, we did this year launch a multi-year initiative, Wine Country for All of Us. This is an organizational wide initiative, and really what it says is that the lens of everything that we do, we are really thinking through how we can be an open destination for all types of travelers. So that will be seen through our marketing lens, that's seen through the customer service that we provide, that's also seen through the programming that we do. So we will be launching later this year some really some customer service programming around how do we ensure that we are bringing people and welcoming them to Sonoma County in the most open way possible, knowing that we're in a very divisive world right now. And then we also, you'll continue to see these Wine Country for All of Us pop up through the way that we market and talk about Sonoma County. You can kind of go through the next slide. It's essentially what I just said, but I did want to also just show you, people say, well, I don't ever see what Sonoma County does, you know, you market Sonoma County, I don't see Sonoma County's ads. Well, oftentimes, if you're not seeing ads to come to Sonoma County, that means that we're doing a good job of not spending our marketing dollars to people who are already here. So I did just want to show our current paid campaign. This is Wine Country. We know the wine industry is hurting right now. And so we really are going wine forward with leading, this is Wine Country, reminding people that's part of Sonoma County is. Go to the next, there's a series of images, but showing this is Wine Country in a different way, an unexpected way. We have the coast, we have zip lining, you know, people on bikes, our farmers, you know, and there's several other different images, and there's a video which I didn't do because I wasn't sure of the Wi-Fi situation, but essentially wanting to really lean into the unexpected. The other piece that I wanted to, is there questions on the meeting I've gone through so far?
Yeah, let me just check online real
Yeah.
quick. And no questions online.
Yeah. And where I really wanted to end was just around our sustainability programming for responsible travel. So there's, you know, several different things, and I will say, I've worked with the Russian River, the Lower Russian River MAC on some of this work down there, with some of the things that are really important to the Lower Russian River area. I know that those issues might be different along the coast, but just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the work that we've done. This is not, so we do have a Sonoma County app. One of the things does not work quite as well here because of the self-service. We do have the ability to push notifications to people who downloaded apps, although there's a cell tower. So apps or self-service here has gotten better. But down in the Lower Russian River area, we're able to do push notifications when you enter into a geographic area. And so we've done that around holiday weekends, with asking people to be respectful of the parking lots and using the river shuttle. We've done it around bear notifications and bear safety. We also have used it for other types of, you know, we're right now what we're exploring is, given the tragic drownings in the Russian River, reminding people about life jackets usage along the river. So the reason I bring this up is that I realize cell phone usage along the coast is spotty, but we are exploring ways that we do more targeted geofenced messaging to people. And I know that the messaging can change depending on where we are and what the most current issue is, but would be interested if, you know, that's an area that we can always explore. The second piece I'm going to go over here is we also worked with Supervisor Hoffman's office on Black Cloud Week and with the Economic Development Collaborative. We're in plannings for this next fall. Shay and I are advocating for Black Cloud Month this time, so just a week. But, really, this was something where, Supervisor Hawkins' office came forward and said, the fishing community is telling us that they need to explore other products that they can fish for if they want this industry to be sustainable on the coast. And black cod is one of those things. So we worked with the Economic Development Collaborative to put forward black cod. We brought in we brought in partners for Sonoma County that we would, tourism that we wouldn't traditionally have worked with, like Oliver's Market, where they did, an entire advertising spread to local residents, bringing their attention to, the product. And then also did a lot of advertising around the Bay Area, inviting them in, really loved that after the restaurant week. But essentially, we're looking for what are ways that I'm trying to demand driver here, what's a creative way that we're looking at an industry that's been hurting? What's something creative we can do that will attract people here? We'll get residents thinking differently about the local products that are available, and we'll support an industry that needs our help. So really proud to have partnered on that and looking forward to this, what this year is going to bring. And the last partnership I want to talk about is the partnership that we have with Leap and Trace, which is a national organization, Sonoma County Regional Parks. We put together the Leap and Trace Coalition during COVID, knowing that the outdoors were being really loved a lot. And Leap and Trace has a national track record of effective communications about the outdoor space. And so we have a toolkit that businesses can opt into and receive information about communicating to their guests, whether it be with a reservation confirmation. We also provide tools like table tents for restaurants and other types of communication. There's a Leap and Trace online course that both our visitor center folks can take, and as well as people working within the industry. That Leap and Trace partnership, we have about 70 businesses that are Leap and Trace partners across the county. But what that also has morphed into is there's now a tri-county initiative called Cleaner California Coast, and I don't know how many of you all are familiar with it. You can actually go to the next slide. So the Cleaner California Coast is an initiative, a joint initiative with the counties of Mendocino, Sonoma, and Marin counties. And they have worked, they're looking at, okay, how do we tell people unified messaging along the coastline, how to treat the coast when they're visiting. And so they've worked with Leap and Trace on that messaging. They've taken the 7 principles that Leap and Trace typically talks about. They've narrowed that down to 4, which is before you go, trash your trash, what to do with poop, and the considerate coastal communities. And they've branded that along the coastline, recognizing, and we heard it earlier, that people don't just stop at the county line. You all interact across the county lines, and our visitors frankly may not care if you're standing on a beach in Sonoma County or a beach in Mendocino County, but we all know that those of us that love the ocean and coastline here want people to treat it with respect. So I know Madeline from California Coast is watching the line, but did want to let you know that we've been working with them on this tri-county project. And it is Cleaner California Coast because the hope is that it will expand beyond this coast, and we've seen other communities in other parts of California also show interest in this type of messaging. There's a lot of things I didn't talk about, and that's totally fine, but I just want to open up questions, because I maybe can share something that would be important to this group, or.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for presentation and a lot of great information. I guess I'm curious, you do your efforts in terms of outreach, obviously are generating results, and I think it's great that you actually measure them and look at comparative data and all the rest. But I also suspect you've got an opportunity to collect information and assess the strengths and weaknesses that visitors find in the county.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I'm most curious about is what agencies or organizations within the county government itself do you interface with most effectively? That's one.
Okay.
And I think extensively.
So there's the one that we interface with most often and effectively is the Economic Development Collaborative. We actually contract with the county for receiving our funds through the Economic Development Collaborative. Our board is made up, and the way that it has to do with the way our ordinance is written, but our board is made up of a combination of business improvement areas, which are our hotel owners and operators from Ross County, and then also appointees from our board of supervisors. And the number of appointees varies based off of the TOT that we receive. Margaret is an appointee supervisor Hopkins to our board. I say all that we also have ex officio members of our board, and that includes the head of ABC. It also includes the county administrator, to sit as a ex officio member of the board. Additionally, we do have direct contact with the supervisors. It's really important that we hear from them about what they're hearing from their constituents, but also for us to provide feedback about what's happening in the industry, because there's such a correlation between the economy, knowing that 1 in 10 jobs in some county is within this industry. And then just from the stewardship side of things, I do have a very good relationship with regional parks as well.
And I have two other questions. One is fairly tactical. There's a Senate bill that is advanced and passed in the Senate. I think it's sitting in the Assembly, SB 584, which essentially would impose an additional 15% occupancy tax in addition to what the county TOT tax it already does. And I'm wondering if you have any perspective on where that bill goes or whether it's going to go, and what is your concern? Because I'll tell you what mine is that, if we're supposed to be an alternative that's affordable and family focused, a 30% occupancy tax is going to, I would suspect, significantly depress, particularly, the rental market here.
Yeah, so SB 584 was introduced a year or two ago.
Yeah, it was passed by the
work
Assembly at the end of 23, and so I guess it's just been sitting.
It's been sitting. My understanding is there is no movement on it. California Travel Association, so we don't do direct advocacy.
No, I'm
but
sure, I'm just.
California Travel Association is a statewide advocacy organization. They and California Chamber went in very, very hard, and I will say Sonoma County was the leader bringing that to Cal Travel's attention. And there are several folks that are within the vacation rental market that held that torch. And I've watched it. As of right now, there hasn't been any movement on it. It's not on the watch list this year. I believe that there's no.
The only reason I asked, and my concern is that given the slashing and burning that's occurring at the federal level for funds flowing to the state, people are gonna be looking for money, and here is potentially an easy pickup.
I agree, and hold your concerns wholeheartedly.
Okay.
There is a nexus at which someone makes a decision about whether or not to take a vacation based on the taxes, and it's around 18 to 19%, depending on the study you look at, that would put coming to Sonoma County at 30. So,
It's really it'd be a killer.
absolutely.
And I have one other question, and then I promise I'm done, but I think that, there's this larger issue, and I appreciate that you're representing the beneficiary of the TOT, the tourism occupancy tax that's applied to residential rentals, Bros, Airbnb, as well as obviously the hotel and motel industry. Our strengths are our weaknesses in the sense that this is a very large county, as you point out. The geography is broad, the features differ from point to point, from the coast to the forest and all the rest. I'm gonna ask a difficult question. Do you think, my observation is that we spread our efforts like peanut butter over a very large slice of bread? Meaning the efforts, just the flow where the opportunities are, where the population centers are, but is that ultimately effective? Because I do think this notion of development drivers or the attractions that will actually get and generate sustained visitorship with all the right qualifications and safeguards. It just feels like it's very diffused. And, you referenced Monterey Bay, aquarium. I'm not sure we want an aquarium, but I sit and I see Bodega Harbor. I see kite surfers out there, and boy, we have enough wind to probably propel an army of them. But where I'm going with this is diffusion is effective at one level, but it never seems to generate enough momentum to actually generate the kind of benefits that one would hope. And I guess I'm just asking, from your perspective as a tourism expert and somebody that spent your career in this space, should the county be more focused on fewer development opportunities for tourism, as opposed to more?
Not really my answer, but
Well, I'm
yeah.
trying to learn. This is not, I don't have an agenda other than, how to figure things out.
I hold my word, I'm moving. Right, Margaret.
Okay, so, my feeling is Sonoma County is an exceedingly diverse place.
Yes.
Exceedingly diverse. And what I have found in my time working with Sonoma County tourism is that diversity is important. And that we're not seen just to be supporting large branded hotels. And yes, that means that marketing to that is very difficult if you don't have a whole lot of money. It can become diffused. But by the same token, that diversity in itself is a very, very strong asset.
No, I'm not a corporatist, actually, although the questions may have sounded like it. I think about the investment the county has made in regional parks, county parks. And I'm a visitor to a lot of our national parks and a hiker, and I think this is some of the best hiking in the country. And, my concern is that message, it's diffused with everything else. It's this issue that, and the concern that I've got, you articulate one of the goals this year is the identification of development drivers. Development does not mean build a 600-room hotel in my point of view at all. I mean, it's about being appropriate for where we live. But I guess I'm just, my concern is that it just feels like we're, is there enough prioritization? Or is it just, again, spreading peanut butter so thinly that we don't get real traction? There isn't a message that, other than the line one, that really emerges.
I think maybe it's about changing the perception of what the product is.
Yes.
And for us, definitely, one of the huge drivers is people who come to Sonoma County and experience it. We have a huge, I don't know what the number is in terms of return.
It's in the 70%, yeah.
What Kelly was talking about in terms of the warmth and the community.
Oh, yeah.
Here, these are the products that we are continually reinforcing in our.
And I think that's, wonderful.
That's what.
I'll tell you one of my concerns is because the county has made substantial investments directly and indirectly in parks. But in my view, and I live very near the Dora Beach, the parking situation is impossible. And so if I'm a visitor, am I really gonna come back the next weekend or a month later when I spend 40 minutes trying to find a parking place? I mean, this is the disconnect that I'm sort of getting to between building an effective and successful and sensitive tourist industry, you know, I'm not, it's just, it's a very difficult problem, so I applaud the work, I guess maybe that's where I'll end. I applaud the work. And I'm gonna continue to ask the question, should there be a more hierarchical approach to where investments are made?
I mean,
And I don't mean advertising investments, I mean county investment, economic development investment, those kinds.
Well, and what, you know, I think we would say is that we can tell, we know where our drawbacks are. We have economic centers of this county where we cannot host a large meeting because we don't have the space to do so. And hosting a conference for a couple, you know, for 1,000 people, on a midweek, where does people go, you know, if I'm going across the country for a conference, I may extend my trip a couple days to get to a sightsee. So there's a balancing act, and it's looking at what is appropriate for what parts of the county.
Yeah.
And we do have drawbacks that we have to contend with. So when we look at those demand drivers, that's a piece of that, and it's great. Trying to, you know, and there is not an easy answer at all.
Super. Thank you. Lots of good information. I appreciate that. Thank you for coming up.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you. Yeah, quick question, on wine, and there's kind of two separate pieces to it, but, wine sales, of course, have, fallen off the cliff in the last couple of years. We had a big spike during the pandemic, when everyone sat at home and drank a lot of them. But since then, it's dropped off pretty seriously, and then the Gen Z and younger people they haven't chosen wine, they've moved to other places. Wine sales, however, are different from wine tourism. As wine, what's your thinking down the road? You're talking about wine tourism, what's the projection on, will it suffer, or will it somehow make its way through? Are they two different things?
Yes and no. So, you know, well, I mean, I think if less people are drinking wine, you know, it regardless of what your hobby happens to be or what you're really interested in. I mean, if I'm really interested in Kentucky bourbon, then I'm probably, you know, at some point in my life, I want to go take a trip to see where it's safe. If I'm not drinking, I may never be interested in going to wine country. Unless there are other things there for me. And that is what we have over some of our competitive set, is that we have more things to offer here than wine. That said, we also know that travelers are looking for experience. So how do we help our industry create really memorable bucket list type experiences, customer service that is gonna continue to have someone coming back? You know, COVID, unfortunately, a lot of that experience piece went away and has not returned. So we're really invested in working with businesses and creating memorable experiences for their guests. Marketing those experiences in particular, and that goes back to, you know, what do we have over our neighborhood? Oftentimes you can walk into a winery and meet the winemaker. You can, you know, so, but we need to go beyond this. How do we create and help market experiences that are, because there are still winemakers out there, right? We launched the Zero Signature Experience Collection and worked with 9 partners, and Verco is one of them, that worked for 9 months on developing really spectacular experiences. And, you know, arguably in, you know, in the 25 years that I've been drinking wine, the 2 best wine tasting experiences I've had have been from that collection, where you go in there and you feel like you've heard the story, I've learned something new, and they were 2 totally different experiences, but they were both spectacular. So it's how do we continue to help businesses create those experiences?
Thank you. An increasing number of tourists are on electric vehicles. And there, at this point, as far as I know, there's no place to charge commercially at high speed north of Bodega Bay all the way to Fort Bragg.
Right.
Not allowed.
That's how it went.
Fast charging started in Lima and at Fort Bragg.
Okay, so Yeah, people like to go to the ocean, if they have like a vehicle, people feel comfortable camping, they like to go. And I'm gonna be getting one next year, and I'm wondering, I gotta get to town for that. If county parks is going to electric vehicles, the county's going to electric vehicles. Is there anything that you can do to coordinate with them as a partner to work something out for up here?
I think, I recognize the issue and I learned a lot even tonight about electric vehicle charging. One of the other things that we do, we provide operational grants to visitor centers throughout the county, $500,000 a year in operational grants that used to be grants that were given by the board of supervisors, and now, Sonoma County Tourism is providing. I know that, what that has done is really strengthened our relationship with our visitor centers. We provide funding to Fort Ross Visitor Center, Sonoma Coast Visitor Center. Both of which would love to be able to provide that experience. And so I think that there's, one of the areas where is we can do, we can be a convener and be an influencer. I think that particular issue is one that we need to continue to talk about, not only for a visitor experience perspective, but also from an emergency management perspective. And I think that's a lens we also need to look through. Because if I was staying here in an emergency vehicle and I had to evacuate, I would want to know that my vehicle could get me safely to where I needed to go. So in turn, we're absolutely committed to, whether it be participating in conversations with regional parks. I think that's something that we can help push themselves.
Yeah, I mean, they're not gonna come.
Right.
They're just not gonna come.
Point information, Chair. Just so that the public knows, I have connected Tesla as the only interested business in the area with property owners in Bodega Bay and Walla. I've had zero luck in between those two areas. Because right now, all of the companies that run these businesses want larger areas and larger stations, which is about 6 charging stations at a minimum. And frankly, there just isn't a space that they're interested in doing that. Which is very unfortunate because we all know that there's a need.
Yeah. But if you can keep that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Are there any questions from the audience?
Just because I'm following up on you,
Okay.
that was my topic, and I see, I was gonna invite you into a partnership to do this, but without going over it again. When an EV driver sits down and plans a trip, they look at where they can charge, and they look where they can fast charge. So it's 101, that's it. And so you can get to Fort Bragg on the charge, but if you're gonna come here and be a visitor, you're gonna hesitate and maybe not come. And the day is coming closer that we will have to have them. If this is our brand, it's a county, we want to invite those drivers. They fit all the criteria you're talking about, cleaning and make it easy for them to come, and don't go for the only the big ones. It's the psychology you're talking about that the Teslas and all have is, I need a plaza, I need to be able to eat and shop. That's not here. We will serve those people, but they need to be spread out so that people can feel comfortable to stay. They see it on their map. You'll be able to go on the map with your tourist information on their screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So help partner us with us in advocacy. Is it?
Thank you. We'll guys be on this. That's right.
There.
So you're about keeping the parks open and working, right? What about the stairs to our beach that are broken and have been broken for 5 years? No. What's that? I remember the beach, we have public beaches here, not almost 4. And the stairs are broken, they've been broken.
Is it safe?
It's yours.
It's county. Pretty much every time I come up here, I get an update from regional parks on it, and I apologize. This time I forgot to ask for an update.
And going back to the generating $19 million, and what's our cut? I mean, we are in terms of the distribution of resources, and it fits right in with what you're doing, because people, it has this waterfall.
Cliff to go down to the beach.
Well, just to clarify, they don't have anything to do with distribution.
We don't.
I mean, they're
It's-
Right.
We're not, but I'm not, yeah, and we could provide education, so. Happy to, I didn't know that the stairs, these are broken, happy to check in with parks, and I know that.
And those signs you had, I thought they were very interesting.
Yeah,
Are you gonna put them on the public beaches?
they are, and I think Madeline's on this call, but they are on some and are being installed on some of the beaches. I don't know, Madeline, if you heard the question.
Madeline, you're allowed to talk if you want to unmute.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I know that we are working with Sonoma County Regional Parks to make sure that the signs are available to be installed. And I think we would have to check in with Sarah Campbell to understand kind of which parks have the signs already installed. But I'm sure that we can look at Sea Ranch and the adjacent county property there to understand if they've been installed there. But with regard to the state parks, I think we would check in with, I don't know if we are going to be checking in with Sid in Mendocino County or who, but I can follow up with you on that.
Yeah, I thought they were well done. It's a good idea. In fact, I'd like to see the 8.5, 11 in terms of picking up the poop in every rental house.
And so just so that you know, they are available through both Nick Hellring's and also through us. And so we do have vacation rentals that have ordered them. I think we just sent out 100 to a management company today. So we do provide that signage to vacation rentals.
See, I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel. You've done it already. Let's just steal it.
I think I love that.
Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
There should be an English version of this presentation.
Well.
May I just move?
Yeah, maybe move this
way.
crossway so it's facing that way. Sorry, Menka, but we'll just put right back to you. Was there? Hold on.
Anyway, thanks for making the long trip.
Oh.
All things that make sense. So you that's why they just you can talk the whole thing.
No, the whole thing, and I'll introduce you.
Here's your back.
There we
If
go.
there's questions, I
Okay.
will pull you up.
Excellent. I'll stand off to the side. Where I belong.
Nope.
Thank you for the patience.
Oh, that's.
It's been a big night.
There it is. Yep. All right. Slideshow, probably. There we go. Why is that not expanding? No, that's fine.
We're good to go.
Hold on 1 second. We are not good to go. It's not sharing screen. There we go.
Yeah.
Is it not showing?
And it's. Oh, I think my screen is just. Jammed up. It's just showing as frozen on this screen with a little wheel of death.
Oh, I see.
But it's working the big one.
It's working on the big one, but there are people online that are watching. So let's see.
You might be able to.
There we go. That's what did it.
That might work for you. No?
Nope.
Huh. I usually is. Let's.
Let's try to stop sharing, try sharing again. Excuse us all. Technology is 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. So the share option, let's try that. With. There.
This one?
There we go. Now we're playing with fire. It doesn't like us, does it?
It doesn't like me.
All right. And that's not even showing it.
Sometimes you have to do the switch display on the presentation mode.
There it goes. Not showing it here, but it's showing it there, so that's all that matters. It's all.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Haley Fry. With me today is Gary Helfrich, who I think you all know and love. We are with Sonoma, the planning division, and we're here today to share an overview and some highlights from phase 1 of the general plan update, specifically our community visioning phase. So the first phase gave us some pretty valuable insight just into the priorities and concerns and aspirations of people across the county. And it's helping shape the next phase of the update, which will be policy development. In this meeting is really just a chance to introduce the general plan update to the Coast MAC and those in attendance, and just really start building that relationship as the plan moves forward. So, we've been meeting with municipal and community advisory councils and commissions over the last month and a half or so, and really value building those relationships and hearing from all of those community members. And we're looking forward to continuing the conversation with everybody. Next slide, please.
Oh, we lost it.
Hold
on.
So close.
Why is it not? Hold on.
Well, if there was another phone.
There we go.
There it is.
Okay. So general plan is the county's long-term policy framework for how unincorporated areas grow, change, and respond to future challenges. So it covers land use, housing, transportation, disaster preparedness, and natural resource protection. And the general plan influences really how we live, work, and move about our communities. Next slide, please. So Sonoma County's first general plan was adopted in 1978 with a focus on protecting farmland, open space, and community character by really directing growth to urban areas. So it also introduced the concept of community separators, which were later affirmed by voters in 1996 and then again in 2016. And then in 1989, the update strengthened policies for protecting agriculture and resource lands, and then introduced some new elements required by state law. And then the 2008 update added policies on affordable housing, water resources, and some localized planning guidance. So each update has really reflected the values and issues of its time. And the current update will do that same thing, driven by today's community input and emerging challenges. Next slide, please. So the local coastal plan, local coastal program is required by the California Coastal Act, and it guides land use, resource protection, and development, specifically in the coastal zone. And it's developed in partnership really with the California Coastal Commission, who must certify that plan. So the LCP includes a land use plan with goals and policies for coastal development, as well as an implementation plan
that outlines how those policies are carried out. Sonoma County's recently updated LCP, which helps the coast adapt to evolving conditions and state policy requirements and addresses climate change and sea level rise, public access to the coast, water resources, protection of coastal ecosystems and agriculture, and then natural hazard mitigation and wildfire resilience. Next slide. So the county adopted its first LCP in 1981. It was later amended to align with the general plan updates at that time and certified by the Coastal Commission in 2001. And then the LCP again was most recently updated and adopted by the Board of Supervisors in February 2025, following the certification by the Coastal Commission in November of 2024. Next slide. So the LCP again governs land use and development within the coastal zone, and it implements the California Coastal Act at the local level. So again, it must be certified by the Coastal Commission and reflects coastal specific policies. While the general plan guides development really outside of the coastal zone, it still provides countywide policy direction on topics like climate change, transportation, and housing, provided those policies are consistent with the Coastal Act. General plan and the LCP also must be consistent. So this general plan update isn't necessarily opening up the LCP for a full update. But at the end of the process, some minor amendments may be needed in the future to ensure that both of those plans are consistent. Next slide. So this update to the general plan is called General Plan Sonoma, and the plan is being updated to reflect today's needs and changing conditions in current state laws. Phase 1, the community visioning phase, included an audit of the existing general plan, implementation of our community engagement plan, and then we'll conclude with a scope report intended to guide the approach to the next phase, which is policy development, informed by all of the outreach that we did during this phase. So policy development will span multiple years, and it will also continue to include public input during that phase. Next slide. So this slide just shows a brief timeline of our work so far. We launched the community vision phase in June of 2024, and it's now wrapping up. So we're rounding out this phase by meeting with community and municipal advisory councils and commissions to share what we've heard and continue building those connections. Then we'll be headed to the Board of Supervisors this August. Next slide. So again, one of the goals of this phase is to also develop a vision statement that describes the future of Sonoma County and highlights the shared community values we heard from all of our outreach. The vision will also be supported by a set of guiding principles that kind of break down the vision into more focused pieces to really help shape the goals and policies during our next phase of work. Next slide. So now I'm just going to share a couple highlights from our outreach so far. So to reach people across the county, we used a mix of strategies. We sent over 50,000 postcards to residents, maintained a project web page. We used email newsletters and social media. We partnered with community-based organizations. We coordinated with district staff. And we hosted community workshops and surveys, as well as some focus groups. We attended festivals, markets, and cultural events. And now we're again meeting with municipal advisory councils. We published a community engagement dashboard that's now up on our website that also includes the results of all of those workshops and engagement efforts. Next slide. So just to highlight some of the workshops that we hosted and events that we participated in. The first round of workshops were focused on broad countywide visioning. Key themes from those included supporting small farms and diverse agriculture, focusing growth in urban areas, providing housing for all ages and incomes, and creating more parks and recreational opportunities. Next slide. So our second round of workshops were designed as open houses to gather feedback on specific areas of the county. Max helped really prompt place-based feedback on what people value and what challenges they see in their individual communities. Next slide. So we held one of these workshops at the Bodega Harbor Yacht Club back in April. Next slide. And some common themes or feedback that we got during that event included concerns about Bay Flat Road, interest in better pedestrian and bike infrastructure, and an appreciation for the local fishing community. To reach more people, especially those less likely to attend formal meetings, we also attended pop-up events.
some of which included the Apple Blossom Festival, Roseland Cinco de Mayo, Sonoma County Pride, and a number of farmers markets. So here's what's next. We're gonna be drafting the vision statement and guiding principles that I talked about earlier, preparing a community engagement summary and a scope report for the next phase, and then presenting that information to the Board of Supervisors in August. And then after that, we'll launch the phase 2 policy development with continued public input throughout that process. Right? So as we wrap up, we'd love to hear your thoughts, similar to what we've been asking community members across the county. What makes your community special to you? What are your priorities or concerns? What do you hope to see in the future for your community? And then how do you want to stay involved in this process? And then lastly, I just want to message that we do have a dedicated webpage. I recommend visiting that page to stay informed just about upcoming events and milestones. And then you can also subscribe to our email list there. And then our general plan email is also up here. It's just generalplan@sonomacounty.gov. And just a small note, our sonomacounty.gov domain has changed. That's our updated domain for our emails. It used to be sonoma-county.org. If you still send messages to that email, we'll get them for the next 3 years. They'll just be forwarded to us. So no worries if you have old contacts, we will still get the messages that you send. And that concludes our presentation. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer. I've also got Gary here if you have more questions about how the plans really interact with each other or anything really specific to the coastal stuff.
Thank you. Anybody?
I do have one question.
Sure.
Earlier this month, the Sonoma County Civil Grand Jury issued an update on emergency planning. And it acknowledged a lot of progress, and I think obviously since your timeline sort of triggers this in the sense that the county's had 4 major wildfires and several severe floods in the last 8 years. So really since the last significant updating. And this document that was prepared, as I said, acknowledged a lot of good progress on the part of the county. But there are a number of areas that it deemed absolutely insufficient. And particularly, in fact, I saw one, the Bay Road issue, and that's exactly one of these issues. And I'm sure it affects populations up and down the coast in the sense of ingress and egress and the limitations of single points or single points of failure in terms of emergency evacuation. The absence of cell service, dependable cell service, those kinds of things. To what extent are those things being factored in? Will they be in your phase 1 report? Meaning this issue of improved planning and execution, because there's lots of planning, and that's what this report made clear, is that it's just been going on and it's years behind schedule in terms of actually addressing a number of these real issues. So how will this plan reflect the fact that we have experienced some real natural disasters? What will be different going forward as a result of this plan?
Yeah, so we do have 2 elements that are actually going forward that are part of General Plan 2020, which are our existing general plan right now. So it's both the safety and environmental justice elements. So it's kind of interesting that we have some tandem efforts to really finish that out as we're updating plan. So part of what we're doing, or our scope report, is really just a recommendation of how we're going to approach developing policy in the next phase. So as part of phase 2, that would really be something that we look at again, is where are these.
But I guess
falling
I'll be more
short and
specific. You said you're coming to the conclusions of phase 1, which is essentially a reflection of what the community is saying.
Correct.
So are these issues that I've referenced, are they in fact going to be represented in this initial phase 1 of the plan? Meaning, that disasters are now a way of life. That the historical approach has been somewhat successful, but has clearly, based on this grand jury report, fallen short. So what will be different going forward? That's what I'm asking you, representing the county from a policy perspective, or the formation of policy, what is going to be different to incorporate these kinds of changes in the environment into the planning process?
So simply put,
Yeah.
the answer to your question is yes, that will be reflected. But we also do have policies that do address safety, but clearly those need to be updated. And part of that process is looking at what has historically happened and projections of what will happen in the future and developing policies around what we don't address currently because we didn't know that was gonna happen in 2008. So we're looking at new information and projections kind of for the future of, okay, we know this has happened. How do we address that? We've been through these experiences. Clearly, we need to make policy to address this. So that is what the next phase is looking at, is how do we address that from a policy perspective? So we haven't developed that policy yet.
I appreciate that.
But simply, so the answer is yes, and then all of that information that we've collected, all of those notes from all of the outreach events or workshops that we held, again, are in that dashboard that's on our website. And then that community engagement summary that we have will also include all of that. So it'll include just essentially raw data and then a summary of all of the key things we heard. So things that we've heard over and over again. And then again, we were at Springs MAC last week, and we also heard about, cell service, or, we've heard this from a number of, it's, this is the situation that's occurring here across the county. There are other areas that have.
Well, particularly the West County, the West.
Right.
I mean, we're at a significant disadvantage. And I guess it's just a single MAC member, and I realize we're not in an official meeting, but I would ask, as a citizen and as a member of the MAC, that the general plan, please read and incorporate the appropriate elements from the recent civil grand jury report on managing disasters and planning in advance of them. I mean, they give the county a ton of high marks for responding after the fact, but this is prospectively. And it involves virtually every area of county government. So, yeah, I'd offer that as a suggestion, but thank you so much for the answers you've given. Very clear presentation.
There's a southern plan that would, help promote the generating, of funds to actually implement, all the policies. Since they just say, oh, this would be nice, we had this and that, but actually something more, news and direct monies to.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the plan doesn't necessarily create funding in itself, but it creates policies that can help obtain that. Yeah.
I was just going to add from the local coastal plan, because we've already adopted that. For example, in disaster response and hazard mitigation, and that element of the local coastal plan, it's important to understand there's the plan and there's implementation. So what the plan does is it will obligate the board of supervisors to develop a program to do X, Y, or Z. It wouldn't say widen Bay Flat Road to 16.5 feet. It would say you have an obligation to improve this road. How you improve it, that's implementation. It's just because in the LCP, we have a coast-wide program for fire fuel management and fire fuel mitigation, but it doesn't say how to do it. It says engage these agencies, make this a priority. And then when we go to implementation, that's when we create that program, and the program is where the rubber meets the road. Gotcha.
You ever talked to someone happy that anybody else?
First off, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
For sticking around.
Thank you very much.
But I attended, I believe I attended some of your, or at least one of your workshops online. And what I'm gonna say is in the criticism, it's kind of to get your insight. And that is, we talked tonight about how the coast is misunderstood, especially out this far. And I encountered that in these workshops too. So, and your outreach rightly is mostly urban or semi-urban. And this is our app, you know, not many people out here. So our voice isn't very well heard. But so my question, I guess, is, do you feel that we should be comfortable that we are being heard as we are? As we, is that fair? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So,
Are we gonna be in there correctly?
Yeah, so I mean, I might also ask Gary.
Yeah, because the coast though also has this unique advantage in that you have your own land use plan that sits independent of the general plan. And is very focused only on the coast, and that's an amazing benefit, is to have a land use plan that's coast specific, doesn't consider cities, anything like that. All the policies in the LCP kind of sit aside from those in the general plan where the interface happens. This is where, so inland, the folks in those communities are worried about land use. They are worried about agriculture because that planning is not done. On the coast, you've got the advantages. It was done recently and it was done purely with input from residents of the coast. Nobody else gets that anywhere else. But, you know, there's equity, there's hazards, there's transportation. The big one is there's affordable housing, and there's a very interesting intermeshing between the housing policy inland and the housing policy out here, because state law doesn't really let us separate that, nor does things like workforce housing. If we can develop workforce housing in Monte Rio, who cares if you're hiring somebody in Jenner? It's just down the road. So our housing needs don't know boundary, and that's kind of an important thing. The housing element is an important one for everybody to have a voice in, everybody to consider. But so far as the land use policies,
And equity, you think, would be?
yes, the equity element is going, and I think that the hazards policies will be able to enhance what's in the LCP, but the big thing to remember is the general plan can't override the LCP, we can add to it.
Yes, very much. As one of those guys who drives the big red trucks on the, those emergencies. Caltrans has kind of recently let out a bid for repaving from Jenner to the Walla Bridge. I note in your presentation the desire to improve walkways and walkability and bicycle lane. And I also realize that the coastal plan is different than the inland plan. And also that the grand jury says there's that, let's take a look at this. Has the county been able to, with their plan, push for implementation on improving the Highway 1 or improving the repaving project to increase the width, perhaps making use of what's known as Interstate Surface Transportation Efficiency Act fund or high-speed funds in order to improve places? I do realize that there are spots on the coast you're not going to sort of couple of feet of roads, but there are many areas where it's just a drop off, and there's nothing that's more annoying on a call than to come upon bicycles on a blind turn and realize, even with lights and siren, they can't get out of my way, and I can't pass them until we get around the blind turn. And getting those safety issues addressed.
Yeah.
Especially when an ongoing project is just started.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you get a
so-
little leverage on the state from the county standpoint to say,
That's happens at a much.
I
more
realize
basic level. And I'm speaking as somebody who spent 22 years driving a big red trucks. So I've got in county, so I've got some experience with that. We have the constant problem between improving road safety and protecting coastal resources, and that's what makes Highway 1 an absolutely unique road. Is the coastal commission is part of the mix here. Normally, Caltrans is a state agency, says, here's what we're doing, and if we have the money to do it, we do our studies, we go ahead and do it. They need a coastal permit even for culvert replacement out there. But we are working, one of the things in the LCP is to develop rather than piecemeal approach, programmatic approaches to improving sections of Highway 1. So we do have applications. This has nothing to do with the general plan or the LCP. This is an example of how it succeeds. Caltrans got the message and is doing programmatic improvements permits. So they aren't just looking at one culvert, one drainage. We're saying from post mile here to post mile here.
36 miles, so pilot.
We want to look at certain pieces of it. We're gonna look at it holistically rather than one project at a time. But that said, we still do have to deal with the fact that and the Coastal Commission recognizes that the Coastal Act was written in 1975. And it's through the lens of 1975. And it's sometimes frustrating because there was no housing crisis in 1975. We worried about nuclear winter, not climate change in 1975. It was a different time. And the legislature is very cautious in amending the Coastal Act. The Coastal Act is one of those state laws. There's a political third grade.
Yeah.
But the commission has been working with creative interpretation, so. Long way around about, they still need a coastal permit and probably one directly from the commission, not from. The county, because by definition, they're working west of Highway 1 if they're working on Highway 1. But that's how the retained jurisdiction is defined, is between the last public road in the city. So a lot, when they widen the road, they're by definition running to that area. But Peter Allen, who is the statewide coordinator, has been as flexible as anybody in any large regulatory agency to do his best to make the road safe as possible. So, but it's in the permitting phase now. This has nothing to do with the general plan.
Yeah, I follow what you mean. I worked on a border road where we were in an environmentally sensitive area, and we could not even set foot out of the 1909 footprint of the road.
Did anyone have an interesting approach to the bike issue? People, it's a big problem.
I will say, this might not necessarily affect the coastal zone, but, the county is working on an active transportation plan right now. Which. About Gary.
And just with regard to Highway 1, some of the policies we have in there for asymmetric shoulders is one example. So when you're by Munis Ranch coming down the gulch and going up, somebody on a bike is gonna go fast to a car through there. Somebody going up that is gonna go slower than walking pace. And the idea is, so move the shoulders over so that the shoulders on the climb only. So the cyclists have a place on the side when they're going slow. And on the south, well, depends which part of the gulch you're on. Southbound, say, coming down into the gulch, there's very little shoulder there because the cyclists aren't gonna hold things up. There is the other consideration too, is that Highway 1 is actively hostile to any type of transportation except for automobiles. And that's in the context of things like Bodega Bay, which is a town that should be walkable. It's compact. It's fairly densely developed for the coast. Yet you can't walk down to Diekman's from the harbor. You could, but you take your life in your hands. And those are things that we're working on the active transportation plan, because you shouldn't be obligated to get in your car just to go get groceries from the day to day.
You have statistics on bicycle accidents on Highway one?
The highway patrol has those. It's called a Switter's report, and those are being used in development of the active transportation plan. But that's neither the general plan nor the.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, there have been deaths everywhere, and the idea, the Board of Supervisors adopted a program called Vision Zero, which is the idea that there shouldn't be an acceptable number. A lot of our vehicle code says acceptable number of injuries, and things like you go as fast as 85% of the cars, even if everybody's going too fast for road safety. And so the new view is try and make the roads as intrinsically safe as possible. And there's some place, just give you a quick classic one, is pulling out of Lucas Wharf in Fisher Carrion. If that hill just went down 5 feet, I mean, wouldn't have to go down far. It would radically change the safety there. So that's the idea of making that road's intrinsically unsafe there. There's nothing that the property owner could do in the driveway. There's nothing they could do to make it safer. But the board has said it's our obligation to try, that's a state highway, so we don't control that, but we're doing that on there's a lot of places where you do small improvements and make the road much safer. So that is something adopted by our board.
The roads are Ontario and raised Valley Forge. Floods.
We can't, because that's the ocean.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you
very much. I always envisioned, since so much of the coast is state park.
Yeah.
And it's not always possible, but a category 1 bike lane departing from the highway where possible. Yes.
Those are planned.
Okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, pretty much, once you get north of between Jenner and Fort Ross, there's no opportunities.
It's sketchy, but when you.
Well, I can speak from being on the typical fire for almost 20 years. We have very, very, very few, I can count on one hand, the number of vehicle versus bicycles accidents. Most of the bicycles crash on the road.
Right.
For whatever reason, I think, the speed that people are going at here is slow enough that, they can stop in time if there's a side test. Not to say that that's a good thing, but I don't think you're gonna find the number of accidents that you'd expect looking at the road.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody want to continue this conversation? That's great. We'll consider.
They give you housing for.
Oh, no, we're heading there.
You conquered.